All right, everyone. Welcome to our second podcast here on Sasquatch Encounters. We have two guests here. Once again, gratefully, Mike Luci, and we have a new guest, Chuck Larson. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, Toby? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, what's going on, Toby? Good to be back.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Any opportunity we got to talk about this stuff, we'll jump on. So
Yeah, I live up in New Jersey, so no one wants to talk about Bigfoot up by me. So whenever I get to talk about Bigfoot, I jump at the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm in Cincinnati. It's the same deal here.
Right?
yep,
We got
I
to
same.
go a
can't.
little.
I can't never
Same.
find anyone to go with around here unless it's in Kentucky, and I have a group in Kentucky that's 3 hours away.
Oh yeah. How far are you from Salt Fork?
I think 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
2 hours.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's, I know some people up there. Maybe I can hook you up with those guys if you're ever jonesing to get out and
yeah, that'd be
getting
that'd be awesome.
yeah yeah they're good people too. So yeah, we'll talk after the show.
Yeah, is that where the monkey farm is, Chuck? Ohio.
Close. Yeah, that's over in I want to say Coshocton County, which I think is like the next county over, two counties over. I want
Okay,
to say.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Kind of
that's another
far.
place I want to get. I want to get to there too.
Yeah, we got some interesting leads out in Ohio.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, there's an awesome um, conference I went to. The first one was last year. It's
Yeah.
called the Sasquatch Triangle in Coshocton County, Ohio.
Mhm.
Great event. So I mean, if you're only like a couple hours from there, I mean, definitely worth the trip up,
Yeah, for sure.
and you get to talk to a lot of great people and just hear a lot of great presenters. That's I spent most of last spring just going around to all these different conferences. I went to the one I just spoke about, the one Sasquatch Triangle. I went to the OBC, the Ohio Bigfoot Conference,
Mhm.
which was awesome. I went to the Butler Paranormal one in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then I went to Michigan. That was their first year. That was a very good one. And then Mike and
Yeah.
we were up in Whitehall. We did that conference, and we were down in Virginia. So it's these conferences are awesome. So I mean,
Yeah.
definitely check the schedules out, and if there's anything close,
Mhm.
definitely go see them.
I'm So I've only been to one, and it was the Florida Bigfoot one. I think in
Hmm.
July, my grandmother and I are we bought tickets for the Smoky Mountain conference.
That's supposed to be a real good one. Yeah, good for you. That's
Yeah,
that's supposed
I'm
to be an awesome one.
I'm really pumped about it. And then there's also an expedition there too. That's with the tickets.
Now you can stay right in that lodge, right? I think it's I forget the name of the lodge, but it's like where the convention is. I mean, you'll get
Gatlinburg,
the
I
whole
believe.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is in
Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one Gatlinburg. Yep. No, good for you, man. That's a yeah. I want to get to. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to that one this year, but that's definitely on my list to get out to enjoy as long with the Florida one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
East Tennessee's got a lot of crazy stories coming out there, and Western North Carolina too. Western North Carolina is
Hmm.
where that what's his name that guy last name Green that got that
Uh-huh.
thermal footage
Mike
coming out of.
Green.
Yeah, Mike Green. There you go. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that wasn't too far.
He's also
But
got a bunch of other crazy stories too.
who Mike Green?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's pretty interesting. He's got a lot of stuff that's happened to him in that general area too.
Yeah, because he researched the same area, right?
Mhm.
Gotcha,
Hey,
gotcha.
that's sounds like we get down there too, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, we got a lot of places on our list. Speaking of encounters, though, speaking of encounters, though, Chuck, I know you've had your fair share of weird stuff that's happened.
Yeah. Well, see, the weird stuff. The thing is, a lot of my stuff happened, 20 years ago when I was, before, or 25 years ago, actually, before like the
Yeah.
internet, before I could actually, cross reference what happened to me. Um, but now, but then once now that I'm able to research it more, I'm like, oh, that happened to me. Oh, okay, that sounds familiar.
Mhm.
Like I was hiking in the Adirondacks, and I heard chatter, um, and but I didn't know what the hell it was. I felt like I was hiking with my fiance at the time. She's my ex fiance,
Mhm.
um, but we were hiking, and I felt like this sensation of being watched, and just it was kind of annoying. And I would stop, and I would look around, and of course she didn't really like the hike, so she was complaining,
Yeah.
and I was here. I was like, I could have sworn like in between like her, and there wasn't an echo because we were like in deep woods. We weren't like next to rocks or cliffs or anything like that. And I could have sworn I heard like a chattering, like the almost like the samurai chatter type of
Mhm.
noise,
Yeah.
and it was just weird. And of course she's talking and I'm hearing stuff, and I don't want to tell her to shut up because then that's it just adds fuel to the fire. Fight, I
Yeah.
think we were fighting at the time. So, but but then when we were walking down the hill more, I was able to hear it like a little clearer. And then
Mhm.
finally, once we got out of a certain section of the mountain, like that feeling of being watched went away, and then I couldn't hear any more of the chatter. So
Yeah.
that was one experience. Another experience happened when I was walking my sister's dog and actually hiking with the same fiance.
Yeah.
And this was actually in New Jersey, in my town. Um, and we were up in this mountain, and my sister had like this blue tick hound, and those dogs, they're not afraid of anything. They'll chase bears, they'll
Mhm.
chase foxes and whatever. And we're walking, and I get that same sense of like being watched, and of course I'm looking around. But then this time it was weirder because as we walked further up the trail, the feeling of being watched turned into almost like a feeling of being intimidated.
Mhm.
Like you didn't want you just it's just the air felt off. Like it was just like you know what I mean?
There's a lot of different feelings when you're out hiking with
Yeah.
and you're looking for squats. There's just
But
a
that's the
lot of
thing. I
different
wasn't. Go
vibes
ahead.
that come with it. I mean, there's either watched, intimidated, or just curious.
But it's
Kind
weird
of
because
gives,
go ahead, Mike.
yeah, it kind of gives credence to the infrasound theories that get that float around because isn't that one of the things that infrasound does? It's supposed to make you feel like uneasy or something like that.
Mhm.
I thought it made you like sick too, didn't it?
Yeah,
Like it made you
Yeah.
nauseous too.
Very ill.
well, Toby could tell you about that. I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very ill.
Oh, it was
I mean,
bad.
that's. But see, but that's the thing. But I wasn't really like I wasn't out looking for Bigfoot at the time. I was walking in the
Mhm.
woods with my sister's dog, and I mean at the time I lived like 10 miles from Manhattan, so I'd come up to my parents' house on the weekends, and we just to get out into the wilderness and get into the
Mhm.
woods. And but what kind of made me stop like that stop that day stop hiking was the dog I was with. Like I said, this hunting dog. He was like looking at something in the tree line. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
actually stopped. He stopped on the trail, and he was looking at something. And I'm trying to look and see what it was. I'm looking in the same direction, and the dog actually kind of like it was weird. He put like his front paw in front of my leg, but most of his body was like behind mine, like kind of like
Mhm.
hiding behind me. So I'm like, all right, this isn't right. You know what I mean? So and like I said, just that feeling of intimidation was. I'm like, all right, we're turning around. Let's go back to the car.
Mhm.
I'm not. I don't want to deal with whatever's about to we're about to come up on.
Yeah.
So unless it was, it could have been a mountain lion. Who knows? Because there is mountain lions in New Jersey, and I'm sure the dog wouldn't want to chase a mountain lion because
Yeah.
those things are sneaky. Those are sneaky bastards.
Mm.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, but just so you got really like really sick from.
Yeah, and I feel like it was more of a protective kind of system.
Really?
So what happened is it was probably 12ish, 1ish at night. And this was back I was 6 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And we were back on my grandmother's farm where we had visitors every single night.
Wow.
And yeah, it got to the point where we had to move out because they were getting a little aggressive trying to get into the house.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
anyways, on that night we were hiking, we'd split up two different groups. There was maybe I don't know, 6 or 8 people in each group. And well, we were making sounds, getting responses every once in a while. For some reason, I don't know what made me look in this tree, but I look up with my red headlamp. I look up and I could just see the silhouette of these little hairs, but it's making like an outline of a head,
huh. Oh
a
wow. Yeah.
shoulder, and that's practically all I saw. But you could see the little hair definitions, and you could definitely see a head and then a shoulder outline.
Wow.
Well, after that, we head back to the house. It was probably about 20 minutes later, and I just started getting really sick, thrown up, migraine. It was bad, and I didn't start feeling better probably until I'd say 6 or 7 o'clock the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you really got zapped. Yeah, that's
So I
crazy.
think what it was is if you start thinking about putting stuff together, it's probably a juvenile in a tree, and there's probably a female or male that it's called zapping
Yep.
that probably zapped me to get me away from the juvenile.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. So you're looking up at the juvenile, but you're getting zapped from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Wow.
It, I mean, people say all the time. I not all the time, but a lot of researchers say, look up in the trees,
Mm-hmm.
look up in
Yeah.
the trees, and and Chuck, it kind of reminds me of that one witness we had up in Orange County, Sullivan County border in New York.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, that really interesting photo he had. I think I showed you that photo before, Toby, of that figure up in the tree. That's that kind of reminded me of.
I think
I think
so.
that's when you first brought up that story too, when I showed you that photo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We checked that spot out where that tree was, man. It was definitely wasn't. It was a big enough like Y in the tree that wasn't a raccoon or wasn't like a
Mm-mm.
yeah. That
Mm.
was and it
And you could,
definitely wasn't part of the tree.
yeah, you could tell too just by looking up. It was probably about 15, 20 feet up. If you try and use that as some sort of context when scaling this thing, yeah, man, it was bigger. It was bigger than anything like that.
Mhm.
If it was a bear or something like that, I felt we would have seen those, big ass barriers protruding from the side of its, the
Mhm.
side of its head. But no,
Yeah.
that was a really weird picture. That was a really weird picture. I really feel like that witness too. Not to drag anyone's name through the mud or speak ill or anything like that. That's the picture he should be focusing on
Yeah.
because he
Yep.
has these random trail camera photos and things like that.
Mhm.
We personally think it's just him succumbing to pareidolia, the things that
Yeah.
he
Yeah. I
thinks
mean, cause
sees in them. I mean,
Probs.
yeah,
yeah, that's a creepy. Yeah, I mean, we were there investigating that one night or a couple nights, and you could definitely feel like once the sun goes down, it gets dark. I mean, there's definitely a vibe in the place, but like I said, we didn't get any. I didn't get any have any experiences that night. I think we had some like deer rutting, but that was easily debunked by Brendan, the
yeah,
other team member.
it was a pretty quiet night that night. I didn't enjoy it because, well, the only reason I really didn't enjoy it was just because we left around what 7 o'clock it was.
Yeah.
I think at 9:30 or so, I got water in my shoe,
Ah,
and it was kind of cold that night too. So
yeah, it was a
I just had
shame, man.
wet shoes all
I
night.
hate walking in wet shoes.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
like it ruins it for you. You could say, oh, I'll just bring a dry pair of socks, but no, the inside of your shoe's still wet. You're just gonna,
Yeah, it's the
you
most
know,
uncomforting thing you could
yeah.
walk
Yeah, I
in.
think I'm gonna get one of those some of those wader boots. Speaking of
Well,
that,
so Chuck, you remember what happened to me when we were in High Point
yeah. Oh, you almost lost your shoe.
when I freaking fell into the creek?
Fell into the creek. That's great.
Hmm.
Oh, it's funny as hell.
Now I wanted
Oh.
to add, um, Mike, I sent you the photo the other. It was what, a week and a half ago.
Hmm.
Still don't know what it is. Could be honestly a couple things. It could be either the electronic, or it could be. Honestly, I just still don't know at this point because of how far away it was. But I had my thermal imager out, and I got a blob heat signature in a tree.
Hmm.
Now it was an oak tree, pretty big oak tree,
Mhm.
right in the tree line behind a house of the property that I hike on and do my research in.
Mhm.
I mean, right behind, overlooking the whole house. And I was standing at the end of his driveway looking at it through the thermal. And it just stayed there. It didn't move. And it looked too big to be an owl or a bird of some type. And it's not a bear because I don't think bears are in trees or moving around this time of the year. And we don't have cougars or anything around here in Cincinnati.
Oh, it was that close to Cincinnati. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
only 40
that you
minutes
know.
away from downtown.
Wow.
What's intriguing about Toby's area, Chuck, yeah, and like his area, I'll speak on Toby's behalf. He's found some interesting stuff. He's got some really, really, I think I had you listen to them. Really interesting audio.
Yep.
Got some awesome footprint casts. Like he's definitely really suitable area. Um, he's right by. Correct me if I'm wrong, Toby. You're right by East Fork State Park, right? Like that wilderness area.
Yes.
Going
Yeah, and
right
when I
along
when I
the. Go ahead.
yeah, like right by the Ohio River. And when I looked up at the BFRO, the reports coming out of that county, they all came out of that area, and there are these like little green veins of like woods and stuff like that literally go from there to the Ohio River. They pretty much like cut across right where he lives, and like it goes right across his research area. So he's in a really
Yeah.
really ideal spot.
Wow.
The
That's
patches of woods, they're about a mile and a half, 2 miles wide, but all connect from East Fork and down past my house to the river. And then there's just fields all around the woods. So I definitely think they pass through there and they'll stay in my area for maybe a couple days to a week, and then they'll move back to East Fork and just travel back and forth.
no. No. What the fields? What were they? Cornfields? Or they? What kind of wheat field?
Cornfields
What do you got?
in October, but they get cut, of course, in the winter. But they're
Yeah.
all secluded. They're wide fields. There may be, I think the biggest one, the one I have on my property is Mike. I sent you a photo of how big it is. It's pretty big. It's probably about 500 yards long,
Wow. Yeah. So
300
that's
yards wide.
definitely food source right there. Then.
Oh yeah, and I got crazy deer. I hunt on this property, and I mean when I go hunting, I haven't shot a deer yet, but I'll see 12, 13 deer every night.
Wow.
Mhm.
And did you put do you put out like the sweet corn and stuff like that for hunting, or do you
I
do any
don't
of
have
that,
to.
or you don't have to?
They, it's right in the cornfield, so after the corn gets cut, the stalk is all laying on the ground, and they just feed off of that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So.
Actually, in New York, it's actually illegal to I think set up a hunting stand on or near a field there for 30 days after doing a harvest like that, because it's technically considered baiting.
Oh yep yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, I think actually no, surprisingly, I was really surprised about this, that New Jersey allows this and New York doesn't. Baiting's permitted in New Jersey.
Well, because we don't have the area. I mean, the area is a lot smaller. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mhm.
So you don't want you want them coming to the wilderness. You don't want guys shooting right by people's houses.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I guess that's their figuring. If you draw them to one area where
Yeah,
you're not.
draw them away from the neighborhoods. roaming through the woods
Yeah, I'm not
or the
sure about
fields or whatever.
Ohio. I'm not sure, but I usually it doesn't really matter because the field's so big. There's so much corn left. It doesn't really matter at all because I hunt bow season. I bow hunt and I bow hunt from
Nice.
August to end of October into a little bit of November.
Wow, the season's
Wow.
that long in
Um,
Ohio?
yeah,
Wow.
bow hunting is now the rifle seasons. The rifle seasons only last weeks at a time, but bow season is. I wanna anybody listening correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's from August, end of August, until whenever the deadline for deer hunting season is.
Interesting. And it's
Wow.
funny too, because I spoke about this on the last time we were chatting, Toby. I did a deep, I did like a deep dive into different different reports where the witness claims to have had like an actual sighting.
Mhm.
And one of the pieces of information I took down and documented was what the witness was doing at the time or like where they were. Most of the stuff I got was they were either driving, they were at a residence or a private property at the time of their sighting, or they were doing some kind of outdoor recreation. Like, but when I say outdoor recreation, I mean like hiking, camping, fishing, something
Yeah.
like that. There were barely any hunters, which is kind of it's in my research that I did with that, which is kind of surprising too, because like a lot of a lot of anecdotes I hear about sightings or just secondhand accounts. A lot of them involve people that are hunting.
Yeah.
So that that disconnect there with just things I'm hearing and the research I had based off of documented encounters on databases that disconnect there kind of was really like a head scratcher for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were a good amount of reports I came across involving a hunter, but it was very most of them were just like they heard something or found something. None of them really involved them actually like seeing something.
But
Yeah.
Mike, with that research, like now, what area was that? Was that for the Northeast, or was that just in general, like all across the United States?
No, that was just that little area I did. Like I did like just the aggregated reports for New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and then when I did
Pennsylvania,
deep dives in Southern New York, Northern Jersey, South Jersey.
that's right.
So
But but the only, I mean, because with that, I mean, just and it is kind of head scratching, but I think they know when hunting season is around us,
Yeah,
especially New
they're
Jersey and New
smart enough.
York. So
yeah,
I
it
think
is.
they're gonna make themselves scarce. Uh, or either go into like areas. Well, not that they know what's protected areas, but I mean, they're gonna go to areas where they're the hunters aren't gonna be. You know
Yeah,
what I
for sure.
mean? So I think but with the hiking though, but and I think with the hiking a lot of time I think those are juveniles that are getting caught. You know what I mean? Or being
Yeah.
seen.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or a mother with the child that's trying to try to feed or forage or get food or something like that. I
And
think those are the sightings.
yeah, and relatively speaking, it's an extremely small sample size. And I guess if you're looking for hunters who are reports of hunters who have had an actual sighting, you know, New York, New Jersey probably isn't the best area you could look. So I guess
Well, like
yeah,
even my friends with like the hunters that are friends, they don't say where they hunt. You know what I mean? That's like they're like, okay, yeah, I go to I go hunting, but where do you
Yeah.
go? I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah.
So
They
you know
everybody keeps it
they don't want
secret.
to. Yeah, they don't want to draw attention to their spot, so to speak, and they're definitely not gonna. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably why they keep themselves. They keep it tight-lipped.
yeah. No, I
Kind of like
was
the yeah.
the same way. If I ever found a good like if I ever found like, a good fishing hole or something like that, I'd be the same way.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think a lot in northern Jersey. I know a lot of the farmers keep to themselves too. Like they're not going to, like the one witness that we had up in we went on to her property,
Yeah,
Mike. she has a friend, or she knows a friend that his grandfather has them come and take pigs like every year. He'll take a pig, or like he'll actually step over the fence, grab a pig, and leave. And he told the grandson, and the grandson told our witness, but the grandfather's not didn't say anything to anyone, and this thing that's been going on for years and years. So I think a lot of times too, there's a lot more sightings, but they just don't want to be bothered because they don't want people near the property. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they don't want to get ridiculed, so they just keep to themselves and say, forget it. Let the thing
And
take my corn, and like let them take a pig, and I'll just
you just deal
except for
with
that
it.
one, yeah, the one, the reason I actually got into Bigfooting, or I got interest in it, it was obviously I'm 51 years old, so I saw the In Search of, with Bigfoot and all the, you know, and there was a bunch of books that came out after when that Patterson Gimlin film came out.
Mm-hmm.
But there was actually a farm up in northern New Jersey. It's called the Sites Farm that had a creature one night, like a hairy creature, come in and just destroy the rabbit pen. Like just like take like decimated like the rabbits, the pet rabbits. So the next night they were all, like the whole family was there with shotguns, and neighbors were there with shotguns, and the thing came back, and they started shooting at it, and the thing kind of ran off into the fields, into the apple orchards and stuff like that. But that happened when I was like 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. So that always kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuck into my head, you know, knowing that, thinking that, Bigfoot isn't just out in California or the Northwest. It's, there was a report because it made the newspapers and it made the local news, of this thing happening. So, that kind of stuck with me at an early age. That's what kind of got me into, this whole field.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway,
Well,
nothing. Go ahead.
Mike, I didn't know if I told you this or not, but the reason I don't go to East Fork, and I found this out just a few weeks ago, is that they close at, I think it was 4 p.m. every day. So you can't go night hiking there.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
which
unfortunate.
really sucks.
And I guess for the people, and I guess for the people who have the really tight tinfoil hats on, I'm sure I'm sure there's like a valid explanation as to why, but I wouldn't be surprised if some more of like the zealous researchers are like, oh well, why don't they want people in there after this certain time? What are they trying to hide?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's they do they do fishing tournaments on it. They, from what I know, they do hunting tournaments too, and they do all kinds of stuff there. And I don't know why it would close at 4 p.m.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of land too. It's pretty vast.
And all those reports aren't from in of the in the park. Well, I think there's maybe one from where they're on the
Now that
lake, but they're on the outside of it, like prop where residents live, like right by, literally across the street from it.
now, Toby, now that's the all year round, or is that just in the wintertime?
I'm not sure yet. I gotta research, but I'm pretty sure it's all year round.
Because I mean, because up in New Jersey, and Mike knows, the one state park we go to, it's dusk, it's dusk to dawn. You're not supposed to be in there. And so, in
Yeah.
summertime, that could be 8:45, 9 o'clock at night. But, you know, but they're still kind of, they're kind of strict. We got followed by the park police the one night. Remember, Mike?
Yeah.
It was but yeah, yeah, check that because that's 4 o'clock in like the summertime when you got like 4 hours of
Yeah, I mean it doesn't get
nice
dark until
weather and
9:30.
yeah, yeah. So I mean that's kind of, I mean that's almost, I'd be aggravated if I was a resident. Like, what do you mean you can't go to the state park? It's not even dinner time yet. When are we gonna barbecue?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, but
but isn't there, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike and Toby. Aren't there? I don't know if it's Ohio or Pennsylvania, but there's some towns that are having like ordinances for people like trespassing on their property, like in the middle of the night, like not hunting, but just like I guess researching. I guess I read it in one of the Facebook groups, but I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. That there's like some towns that are passing ordinance that people can't go, you know, after a certain time go into their onto their property or something like that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that
Never heard that.
around here.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
wouldn't
got. Maybe it's Western PA then, because I remember seeing it in one of my groups that they're, the landowners are getting kind of aggravated because people are going out and knocking the trees and howling and stuff like that.
like
Yeah.
on
So
their property though,
what's that?
like on their private property.
Well, like, yeah, I guess in the woods behind their private property, there are definitely complaints about people going around in the woods like knocking and howling. Obviously, and I thought it was either Pennsylvania or Ohio because of the because actually there's a lot more Bigfoot sightings out there than
Yeah.
is say
Well, definitely
it's
not
not.
where we went in Allegheny.
No, no, no. Well, that was all state park.
Yeah, definitely not where we went. If it's on private property and stuff like that, I guess I really can't blame them. Um,
Yeah.
for but like that's why me personally, you could test this truck whenever I try to plan one of our expedition, like an expedition or an outing or something like that.
Hmm.
I always try to make sure wherever we go, we're as far away as possible from the nearest road, nearest
Hmm.
house,
Yep.
Yeah.
specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
Specifically for that reason.
That's why Kentucky's my favorite place to go. Because
Oh yeah,
there's so many spots that are so secluded.
yeah.
Yeah. That's deep woods.
Just looking on Google Earth there, it really, just miles of remote, secluded land. Like, who knows what could be in there? There's just a lot of weird stories that come out of that Appalachian region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
it's yeah.
I watched a show the other day. I don't know. Have you guys ever watched These Woods Are Haunted?
I've heard of it before. Like my mom
Yeah.
watches. My mom watches shows like a lot of shows like that. I wouldn't be surprised if she heard about that. But
Well, I found a Bigfoot episode, and it was in um, East Georgia somewhere, and it was this family that lived on this property, and they all of a sudden started having tons of activity. I mean, they would come in the yard. They were making tree structures and tearing down the woods, like making like trails and making like tree structures like the ones you see there, like teepees.
Hmm.
Not necessarily like nests, but like the teepee kind.
right.
Well, there was a mother, a father, and a son. Well, the son started investigating it. I mean, he heard howls, and he saw a bunch of stuff, and he finally was out working in the yard, doing something with wood, and had a juvenile walk up on him on the tree line, and he actually got a really good photo of it, probably the best I've seen in a while. And I'll definitely have to find it for you so I can send it to you. It, it was definitely juvenile, and it was just them long legged, long arms, and just that black figure, and it was right in the tree line watching him. Now, if you didn't point it out, you probably wouldn't have recognized it if you just took a picture out of nowhere, which is also makes it credible. But it's probably one of the best pictures I've seen in a while. And
Hmm.
he set up security cameras and would catch like blobs of it. That really didn't really show anything to me. But the picture he got was definitely really good. I'll have to send it to both of you once I find
Yeah.
it.
That'd be cool. Now, was this recently, or is this like how long ago was this supposed to happen?
I don't know, 'cause it was on TV.
Yeah. So okay.
I just
Well, that I
gotta
mean that North
research and
Georgia
find it.
is that's a hot spot. I mean, we had Matt Pruitt on our show, our last show from last season on the From Behind Tall Trees show, and he does a lot of I mean, he's from Georgia, so he's done a lot of research there, and that's a very credible spot. I mean, you know, that whole corridor, just going from there just up, you know, basically follow Route 81 up, you know, just follow that north, man.
Mhm.
That's all hot spots. You know, Western North Carolina, Eastern West Virginia, you know, Western Virginia.
Mhm.
You know that whole, and then he goes right up into southwestern Pennsylvania. I mean, that's just that whole, you know, that whole greenway there is just loaded
Mhm.
with sightings.
I would even go as far to say that there's probably. I would even go as far to say that you could probably make an argument that just maybe not more, but just as much and probably just as compelling evidence has come out of the southern part of the country than the Pacific Northwest.
I could.
I
Well, I
think
mean, like yeah. Go ahead,
I
Joey.
think it's because the Pacific Northwest is, it's a lot bigger, and there's people that there's so much wilderness. Is what I'm trying to say, and there's
Yeah.
so many. I mean, they could be everywhere, and you never know it because it's so thick out there, and it's just so much of it. I mean, you got the Rocky Mountains,
You know.
and on the East Coast, the eastern side, we got not as much. I mean, we still got the Smoky Mountains, but we still got a lot more population, you know, where a lot of people live, and it's not as secluded, as Western Northern Pacific.
Well, I mean, you know, to have an experience, you need a Bigfoot and you need a person. So
Mm.
you think the averages are working with us, but even like that Julie who we had on our show, Julie Wrench. I mean, she had she's we had a lot of she had a lot of howls and a lot of stuff going on around by where she lives, which is down, I think western. No, I think she's more central North Carolina, but
Yeah, she's Central North Carolina, I think.
yeah, like by the Uari. But that's I definitely agree with you, Mike, as far as like the South is definitely can compete with the Northwest. I mean, even like Florida and the skunk apes, and you know, you know that whole thing, the honey, and the Louisiana,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
honey swamp monster. And then
Don't forget,
Arkansas. Arkansas and Texas. I mean, it just goes on and on. The Boggy
wasn't
Creek and
yeah, wasn't the Honey Island Swamp Monster footage? I might be thinking of something else.
yeah,
It was
Honey
the
Island.
footage
Was it?
that it was the footage that supposedly got released before that was supposedly filmed before the Patterson Gimlin film.
It was around the same time. I want to say maybe before, but the guy he filmed it, but then he just put it in. He just put it away. He just
Mhm.
kept it in boxes, and I think his daughter found it,
Yeah,
and they were
something like
going
that.
through yeah, and then that's when they released it because they're like, what's going on here? you
Well,
know?
yeah, I mean, just to clarify, apparently the claim that it was filmed before the Patterson Gimlin film, it was kind of debunked. I think. Like, I think, you know, my favorite person to cite, as you know, Chuck, Phil Poling did a
Yep.
video on it, and I think he clarified that. I think he verified that the I just fact check this for me because I'm not 100% sure, but I think he clarified that the camera that he used, that specific model, wasn't available until around the like 1970 or something like that.
Seven,
Ooh.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. I don't think he disputed the actual. I'm not sure what he said in terms of like disputing or debunking the actual footage, but again, it just circles back to. I just feel like for every like Patterson Gimlin film out in the Pacific Northwest, we have the Stacy Brown footage. Stacy Brown
Mhm.
footage that was in Florida. There's the Mississippi Skunk Ape film, which I personally think, if I had to make a short list of um, video footage that I think had the best chance, that I think most likely is legit, Mississippi Skunk Ape footage would be on there. That's like the South's equivalent to the Freeman footage,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
which is a particularly you've seen Freeman footage before, right, Chuck?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I saw it a while ago, and then I also was just actually watching it today too. That's actually a pretty that's pretty compelling. You know,
Yeah, it's for when it was shot. It was pretty good resolution too.
Yeah.
that was at 94, right? I think that was the first
95,
shot. 95,
I
Oh no,
believe.
but
yeah, it was somewhere in the mid 90s.
mid
But
90s.
his claim to fame, though, I mean, he claimed to have had a sighting in the early '80s. I think John Freeman was his first name. I'll just call him Freeman for now. He claimed to have had one like the early '80s, like 1982 or something like that. But I think one of his big claims to fame was that he supposedly was the one who tracked footprints that supposedly had dermal ridges in them,
Yeah, and
which
then
are
and then
Mm-hmm.
which were
Meldrum and
yeah,
Francis
like
actually signed off. They agreed with them
they
and
attested to him. But then there were some
tested to
prominent
him. Yeah,
researchers who were calling him a hoaxer. And I think Toby, wasn't that what he was doing at the time of the footage? He was like casting footprints or something like that, or was
Yeah,
that like a secret?
and I heard about the hoax stuff. There was a lot to that. There's so many theories about him, and we don't have a positive answer. I mean, some people think he did hoax at one point, and I think that he admitted to it, but then he said that he didn't admit to it. So I don't really know what
Yeah.
the whole story is, but I do think
But
the
even
footage is compelling, though.
yeah, and even Phil Poling, his power breakdown. He does the power breakdown channel. If you ever get a chance, I highly recommend giving that channel a watch. This guy is his standards for considering evidence. You could attest to this, Chuck. This guy's
hmm
standards are astronomical. Um, astronomical. Like just the way he breaks down and analyzes footage and stuff like that. He thinks that the Freeman footage is legit. So for him to think that, that definitely gives it a huge boost in my book.
hmm absolutely.
And you guys have seen like the videos from or not the videos, but you've read the reports on the Meldrum and Freeman footprints, right? Like how every other step, the like I think it was the left foot was turned 80 degrees in the step
Yep.
to the left, and it was doing like a 351 look over the shoulder to see what's behind it. Every other step, I think that's really compelling, and I don't think if someone was to hoax that they'd try that hard, especially
Yeah.
for like a 1 mile trackway, or was it
Yeah.
7 miles?
It was a long. Yeah. It was a
I don't
long
remember
one.
specific. Yeah, I never like really I never really read any of that, but just based on those details alone, though, like features like that are just too meticulous. Too meticulous. I feel for someone doing a hoax to be able to pull something like that off.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's really one of the things that we like to look for when whether it's listening to a witness's story or just analyzing any form of possible evidence. I feel like one of the things I would try to look for is just any subtle, meticulous details that most likely someone trying to hoax you or anything like that just wouldn't have the thought or just wouldn't be mindful enough to make a point to include.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it was just a lot of detail for him to fake that. But I don't know. I feel like there's a couple different footprints, unless he hoaxed it. But in that video, I really examined the footprints in the video, and they're different from like what I found in casted. And a lot of people have the similar footprints to what he casted, and there's some similar to me. They're some footprints have where it's just a straight. There's no like, you know where you have your heel and then it kind of goes
Almost
under.
like yeah, it's kind of like shape like vaguely resembles like a peanut or something like that. How it kind of like curves inward slightly.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
his footage, the footprints, I didn't really see that. Now I have one footprint that has, the heel kind of shape. Almost almost all of my footprints have that. And I think one footprint, the biggest one I have, is the one that was like just a straight shot, straight impression like his.
But
So,
it's got a wide. It's just as wide as. Do you have any like
mhm.
was it the metatarsal break? Do you see any of that in the
Yeah.
footprint? You do.
Yeah,
That's
it's
pretty. That's cool.
yeah, I have I have only one footprint that's, that shows dramatic lithics and it shows the dermal ridges, it shows clear clear as day toes and a really, I wouldn't say really, but a definite heel impression.
yeah, it's
And
a
Wow.
really. It's really I definitely might have sent you a picture of it before at some point, Chuck. But it's a really really detailed, good find. How many inches was it, Toby?
I think 12 or 13 inches
Yeah,
long and
Wow. Okay.
maybe, I want to say, 5 inches wide at the middle of the foot.
12 inches. So you think that it was? You think it's juvenile, or do you think it was a female, or?
Well, from the footprints I found on my property, I have three different sizes. I have a
Really?
really big one that is 15 inches long, I believe,
Wow.
and then the 12 incher, and then there is a, I want to say, 6 or 7 inches long. That's a really
Wow.
smaller one.
So you have a family unit then probably on your
Yes,
property.
a male, female, and a juvenile.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and
That
I've gotten whistles from, you know, two different directions. I've also gotten howls from two different directions. I know there's more than one on my property.
well,
wow.
those vocalizations that you played for me with the ones that you and your friend got.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you could tell whatever those were. It was like at least two, maybe three different things calling back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
You
And
know, I agree with that.
the whistles is what was, um, you know, three different directions. Then my long howl, which is my favorite. I love the long howls. And I've yet to get like an Ohio lower howl, but this long howl was a higher pitch howl. You know, kind of like a coyote tone, but it was 6 second long. Coyotes don't howl for 6 second long, and they're not as
Yeah, they don't have the
loud.
lung capacity. Yeah.
They're not as loud as what it was. I mean, the audio doesn't show how loud it was, but in person, it just hit you. Like it hit you. You can never tell how loud it is in the audio in person, and it's just incredible to hear that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
hey, we had a similar experience like that with the Sugar Run Hells, right, Chuck?
Yeah. Yeah. That was
You
creepy.
know, I played those I played those for you and your grandma that night. Whatever
Yeah,
that was, tremendous lung capacity. So
I still think that those howls sound more canine than they do like ape though. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for sure at first glance. But what gets me though is what gets me though is you compare those howls on a spectrogram,
Yeah.
the signature to like regular coyote howls, and it's like it's apples to oranges. It's not the
Well, I'm
same.
not saying no. I'm not saying it was a canine. I'm not saying it was a coyote. But I'm just saying, it just had like a canine howl, like a sound to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it definitely sounded much bigger than a wolf or a coyote or anything like that.
I
But
mean,
like I said, I don't want to jump down a rabbit hole because we're talking about Bigfoot. But
that was gonna.
if there's a dog man out there,
Yeah, hey, we were in Dogman country.
yeah, like I said, that it almost sounded like it was almost like a big, huge dog. You know what I mean? Or wolf or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's my interpretation of the howls we got.
Still don't know what to believe with the Dogman stuff. I don't really understand it to a full extent at this point because they're around the same height as what Sasquatch reports
Yep.
have, and they're about the same width, and they
Well,
have muscular definition, just like you know.
Yep. But the thing is, their feet are different. Their feet that they have like I guess paws, right? Or big
well, we had what's his name? We interviewed Jody Cook on our
Jody Cook. Yeah.
podcast a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
He's in the head of, I think, the North American Dogman Research Association, or like the most prominent Dogman research group out there. And he actually said that, so apparently there's two types of them. He claims the first one is, it's called like type 47 or something like that, and that's the one with like the skinny, frail, like backwards hinge legs.
Mhm.
Mhm.
um and then there's the other one that's more like what Toby was describing. It's more like muscular, kind of more like Bigfoot like, but with like a
Humanoid.
dog's head. Yeah,
Yeah.
humanoid, exactly. um I really like, and believe me, I would love for all the stuff to be real, dying for all the stuff to be real. But I would really like to chalk up a lot of the supposed. I really want to write off these dogman sightings just as cases of mistaken identity. Most likely, maybe like just like a giant wolf, or like a big ass dog or something like that, or maybe even just a
Bigfoot.
bear. A bear, yeah, or like misidentification from like a Sasquatch, or you know,
Well,
that's a possibility, or like a bear standing on two legs that bipedally. That's why I think it is. But so, like some of the descriptions people give, especially the ones who claim to have seen things like not just like Dogman, but like any of the supposed cryptids. Some of the descriptions that people give just really makes you. It really, like really makes you like sit back and like scratch your head.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, my personal view. I think Bigfoot is more like flesh and blood, and it's either the missing link or just an unknown species. Some of these stories you hear about the dog man, especially when Jody was talking about that guy he was talking to in the bar that was, I guess, worked in Area 51 or something like that. How, I think dog man might be more supernatural or alien. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since UFOs are a big topic now too, I could definitely see. I mean, that story he told about, um, who was it? Lucas, the Star Wars guy, having access to like some of these files, of the different categories of aliens. That supposedly there's like 27 categories of aliens that they have,
Hmm.
you know, listed. The government has, in a room somewhere locked up, and supposedly he had access to this list, and that's why that bar scene in the original Star Wars, you saw all these different types of aliens, and you actually saw a couple aliens that looked like looked like upright canines.
Well, isn't
So
that isn't one of them one of the ones where Obi-Wan at the in that bar or whatever
yeah, hmm
cut the arm off of one? It was like a werewolf
yep,
type.
yeah. So I mean, so that's the bar scene. So I mean, just so I think, if dog, like you, Mike, it would be great to have them all be real. If I see a dog man and I see it going up into UFO, I think I'm hanging up my hiking boots and probably
Yeah.
moving to a city somewhere because I'm done with the woods. But it's
Just get,
that's creepy, man. I wouldn't, you know. the alien movies I've seen, man, they like to probe you. You know, I don't need something with hairy long fingers probing.
This
You
is
know
how you can tell who grew up on South Park.
what?
This is how you can tell who grew up on South Park.
Yeah,
Yeah, like with that with the old dog man phenomena, a lot of that stuff. I like to play the role just as a curious skeptic.
yeah,
I'll listen because I definitely feel like everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves to tell their story. I'll listen. I'll observe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look for reason. I'll look for reasons to consider this, but like it, you don't see the degree of evidence with this stuff. I mean, yeah, like Jody, he presented to us some interesting, to say the least, photos of, uh, you know, like dog-like figures and some interesting footprints. I don't think we ever got to any of the audio that's on his site
no,
or that we plan on doing. But interesting stuff. It really, really, really interesting stuff like that. But it just it just doesn't with stuff like that just doesn't withstand the barrage of scrutiny or debunking or plausible alternative explanations that a lot of supposed Bigfoot evidence does.
Yeah, I wanna go back to the dog man stuff just for this one. I'm about to say you're talking about a paw print, like paw print type feet. I wonder if that has anything in relation to some of the footprints I found in Kentucky. I have found footprints with only 3 toes, and there's some I found with
really.
4 toes that are
How long?
juvenile. What I thought were juvenile.
How long were they? Like lengthwise?
If I were to guess, they're maybe 5 inches.
Okay, that still kind of falls into the territory of large dogs. I think, and I literally just I looked this up because we're having this guy on our show. I think the average length of a canine footprint's between 4 and 5 inches. Um,
Mhm.
fact check me, correct me if I'm wrong. But 3 toes though,
Was
that's
it toes or was it like pads? Was it like almost like a because dog? I
It
mean, the
was
paws
more
have
of
it's like pads.
it was five
Yeah.
inches, and there, it was definitely like a humanoid footprint, like what you have in squatches. You have the toes very up front, and then you have the heel in the very back. Well, it was just like that, but there was 4 toes instead of 5.
But I mean, with the Honey Island Swamp Monster, I mean that had 3 toes, right? Didn't
there's
that
that
have?
they call it something different down there though. They call it like the booger, I think, or I think
Oh,
that's more like
the
Alabama.
boogaroo,
Boogaroo, yeah, something
roogaroo,
like that.
roogaroo,
Boogaroo,
roogaroo.
yeah, something like that.
But that had three. Now, where you got those prints? Is it swampy or is it like farmland and woods?
It was in Kentucky. Where
Right.
it was actually, I believe, in the mud. It was in a muddy puddle, I believe, right next to where we found also an adult footprint. That's one of the best I've ever found, just naturally
Hmm.
out of nowhere, and it was probably maybe, I would say, 15 feet away from the adult footprint.
And was
Because
this one three-toed as
good.
well, or
No, it was from what I remember, 10 to 12 inch track with 5 definite toes.
that's very interesting.
You can't rule out too deformities too, because obviously there's we have humans get deformities, other animals are born with deformities, so you never know, or if he was injured maybe,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that could be you can't
Some
rule that
beliefs
out. I
are
mean,
that when juveniles are growing, they grow their toes and fingers, is what I've
I,
heard.
I yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think well, coming from the flesh and blood, I'm thinking they got all five. They got what they got when they're born. So if they got five,
Yeah.
they got five. You know what I mean? If there's something drastically wrong with it, then they're gonna have three or. 4, because if you look, when a baby is born, it's got 5 toes, and then they just grow
Mm-hmm.
bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at like monkeys, like they don't add toes, do they? I mean, I'm not a zoologist by any means, but I think, well, you look at cat like kittens. I mean, they're born with all their little fingers and right on the paw. Like they're not adding any any extra appendages afterwards, are they?
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing with mammals. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I mean, like, but that, that's assuming that Bigfoot is flesh and blood. It could be, supernatural, and it could be something else completely. Until you have a body and something to actually pick apart, and you know,
yeah, yeah, we can
or
only
unless you
speculate.
catch, you catch two, the mother and whatever's was walking next to it. It's all, someone's opinion or someone, hypothesis. So
Mm-hmm.
I could be completely off the, you know, the boat myself, and or maybe it was dropped from the UFO and there was one walking away and the alien was following it. You're like something ET looking following it.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, so until you get a body, you're not, everyone's just pretty much gonna, have their opinions and,
Yeah.
do the research and then, form their own opinions. But like coming from the flesh and blood side, I think, they would have all their appendages when they're born, when they come out of wherever they come out of the
Yeah,
womb or wherever they eggs. I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually just like humans. The uh, the birth for Bigfoots. There was a really good report. I think it was a Paul Freeman encounter. I can't remember exactly if it was a Paul Freeman encounter or not, but somehow somewhere out in California, this some guy walked up and there was a male and a female, and the male was standing over top of the female giving birth, and then he saw the uh, the head of, you know, the newborn poke out, and then they saw him, and then they just walked away, and then I guess the female was like waddling, from what I remember.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and I mean the female had like its legs in the air, like you would like what we would have giving birth.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, I can't remember where I read that or listened to it. I think it was on a Bigfoot and Beyond podcast. To be honest, I can't remember if it was a Paul Freeman report or not.
That's yeah. That's wow.
Yeah. So, Chuck, is there any more like special encounters you have, or any encounters at all?
I can. Well, the one, like, did you tell about our encounter we had at the witness house with the clacking?
I was actually gonna see if you could run. I'll tell that one. I was gonna see if you could go over the one that you had at the restaurant or something like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can do that. And that one, and I have another one too. I can the Yeah. I was in this restaurant, and it happens to be in the middle of the Greenway, we call it the Mike and I call it in New Jersey, which is runs from Delaware Water Gap all the way up through to Nevesink. So it was in that area. It's a pretty prominent restaurant, and I'm sitting. And it was weird because I'm sitting in this restaurant, and I'm looking out in this field, and it's a gorgeous field, and you have in the background is like the mountain where the Appalachian Trail runs. So it's a stone's throw away from the Appalachian Trail, and I'm looking and I see this thing, and there's like it's in like 4 feet of grass, and I see this thing stand up, and it's reddish and it's brown, and I see it for like a split second. Obviously, I'm trying to like reach for my phone on the table to take a crappy picture of it, and when I look down to grab the phone, I see the thing kneel back down into the grass. Now, I'm not saying I saw a Bigfoot. I don't know what I saw, but just from deductive reasoning, It was about 80 degrees with about 85% humidity. So if someone's gonna be out there in a ghillie suit in the end of June
Mhm.
in a field when it's not hunting season, God bless them because that wouldn't be me. Why would you be crawling around in a field full of ticks and like probably snakes?
Yeah.
That's just not that doesn't sound fun to me.
Mhm.
The reason why I'm saying there's 4 feet of grass is because I went to this restaurant pretty regularly, and the week before, with the grass was the same height, a mama like a full grown bear was walking through this grass, and all you could see was the top of the bear's back, like the very very top of the arch of the back. And the only reason why you saw it was a bear was what it was you went through a clearing, and you could just see how big this bear was. So with it being 4 feet of grass, and this thing being like 3 feet, I would say 3.5 feet taller than the grass, that counts for something. Plus the fact that it was reddish brown. Like our bears in New Jersey are jet black.
Yep.
Like they have a very prominent nose that's tan, and they're jet black. And this thing was definitely reddish, brownish, like almost like a orangutan looking color.
Mhm.
So, and when it kneeled, and like I said, when it kneeled, it looked like it kneeled down, like a human would kneel down to pick up something. You know what I
Now,
mean? Usually, yeah. Go ahead.
was that in that area? Is there grizzly bears or black bears around you?
Black bears. We don't have any grizzlies in New Jersey.
Well, then that debunks it, really. To
Yep.
be a bear that you saw.
Yeah. Well, it was.
Yeah,
Well,
and
we don't.
I just wanted to just chime in real quickly.
Mhm.
I don't have my research in front of me, but I think I remember there were a good amount of reports in North Jersey
Mhm.
where the figure that where the figure that witnesses described seeing was that reddish brown in color.
Yeah.
Just worth pointing that out.
And I think, and like I said, I think if it was a Bigfoot, it might have been a juvenile because it wasn't massive. It was tall, but it was slender. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It wasn't like one like a 9 foot like massive hulking thing. And the face you didn't see like a snout coming out of the face, so it wasn't a deer either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when I was walking into the restaurant, it was a weird situation because I'm walking in, I'm smoking a cigarette, and I see these two old couples are like standing by their car, and they're kind of looking at each other, kind of like with a dumbfounded look on their face. All
Mhm.
four of them, like just looking at each other, like what the, and they're looking up at the woods, and they're looking at each other like what the hell just like what was happening. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of like hanging out there, seeing if I could hear what they're talking about, and I heard a tree get pushed down,
Ooh.
like a definite significant push down. Like there was no wind, there was no rain. It was a beautiful, you know, June night, humid and hot, but there was
Mhm.
definitely no wind. And it was weird because you heard the tree get pushed down, but then you heard heavy footfalls going up the hill. Now, if a tree falls down, if it disrupts any type of like rocks or anything or other logs, they're gonna roll down with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. Like the footfalls or the heavy noises going up, were going up the hill. So I was like, that's I didn't think anything of it then. I was like, that's pretty interesting. But then when I was looking out in the field, I'm like, maybe it was the late, maybe it was the mother or the adult,
Mhm.
warning the kid, the juvenile to, get out of the field, you moron.
I've had I think two trees pushed over when I was out.
That's a crazy. I mean, that's a crazy. I mean, because Mike and I, we heard one when we were sitting on the deck of the witness's house. I mean,
I and
that's definitely a warning sign.
you can
You know.
tell they're trees because they're huge and the strength that take
Hmm.
to push over these. I mean, they're not huge oak trees or nothing. They're mid-sized trees though, and they're grown trees. They're not dead or anything. It'll take some force to take a tree down. And it was right when I was getting we got paralleled out of the woods, and then right when you came out of the wood line, it's a field, and we were walking through the field. We got about halfway back to the road in the field, and you just hear this huge crash, and it's like I don't, it's huge.
Yeah, with us, we had a witness in North Jersey. She claimed to have had just ongoing activity over the years at her mother's house where she lived with her twin sister. Ooh, excuse me. So our second visit there, our first visit was just kind of like a preliminary introductory type visit. Well, my first visit at least. She just showed us around the area. We didn't really stay too long. I think it was raining that day, right, Chuck? That
The
first time
first
I
the
came.
first time we met there, yeah. And remember we were checking out that tree structure too?
Yeah,
Yeah. It
which
was it was a probably yeah, it was nice.
I personally don't buy much into tree structures, but I digress. Anyway, that second time, Chuck and I, we looked on Google Earth. We saw that there were power lines. There's a power line that cut through the mountain
Yeah.
that house is on the foot of about quarter mile up or so. So Chuck and I, we went to the woods, hiked up, made it to the power line. As we were like walking along it in the clearing, something about maybe 20 yards or so away from us, something big kind of just like stirred up in the brush and
Mhm.
it sounded like it scampered. We could tell it was big. Not sure. It's hard to say if it was on two legs or four, but my figuring is if you rile up a deer like that and cause it to scurry away, like when a deer runs, it's it's bouncing. It's running
Yeah.
for at least a quarter mile or so. Um, Bears, I know, could be a little more standoffish, but I feel like in a situation like that, they would make their presence known. Maybe I don't really know much about bear behavior. I just feel like if it was a bear, we probably would have seen it. It was big though, whatever it was. It made a huge,
Mhm.
it made me both Chuck and I just freeze and like, whoa, what was
Yeah.
that? Um, so after that, to try and stir things up, I cracked a couple of rocks. Nothing happened. So we followed the power line back down towards the street, and then we walked back to the witness's house down the road.
Mhm.
So we're sitting on her deck, and it's getting dark now. And mind you, when you look through, when you look at those woods from her deck at that time of night, it's just like a wall of black. Like it's
Yeah.
dark. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could relate to where you live. But
Mhm.
so we're just talking, and I think the first weird thing that happened was we heard out in the distance in the woods these clacks, this clacking sound, this continuous clacking, clack clack. And the weird thing was, we really wanted to write it off as some like banging or hammering on something, but when you do that, like repetitive motion with a hammer or something like that, you
Mhm.
inadvertently have like a bit of like a rhythm to it.
Yeah, it's just smooth with one after another.
Yeah, it's just very constant, repetitive. These clacks didn't have a rhythm. It was like it was like clack clack, clack clack, clack 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 clack, just very
Mhm.
uneven, inconsistent, and it could have been our confirmation bias influencing this, but we want to say that it came from the same direction. The direction it came from was roughly possibly where the clearing and the power lines were, where Chuck and I went.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that happened. A little bit of time passes, and that's when we heard that tree break.
Was
Yeah.
wood it was a wood knock, right? Wasn't it wood knock or no?
No, no, it was a tree break.
Okay, then it was not, yeah, because that was weird. That's weird.
And then yeah, we heard like a similar. I forget if it was like a crack or a knocking sound coming from a different part of that backyard. And both of those sounds too sounded much closer.
Yeah.
So we didn't see anything. We just heard things. We're not saying what it is or what it isn't, but what we're saying is that happened. This is what we did when we got to those power lines. Um, that's what happened after, and it definitely really gave that place a little bit of authenticity, I guess you could say to me.
Yeah. And the lady was she didn't want us filming on her property. We didn't have the audio going either, just out of respect
Yeah.
for her. And we should, I mean, to tell you the truth, we weren't really expecting anything because we were just, you know, we were walking in the woods, we did the clacks, we heard those footsteps, but then, we weren't just thinking anything of it. You know what I mean? So when it's all kind of happened, you're like, that's kind of weird. You can't really, you know, and her mother's 87 years old, so it's not her mother in the woods. There was, yeah, it could have been some of her friends. Yeah, but why, it's Mike and I, you know what I mean? We're not, I mean, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it for, you know, you're gonna do it to get some notoriety. You're not just gonna
Hmm.
do it for us to, you know, to hear it. You know what I mean? So it's it was just a weird situation. But that when I originally went to that property the first time, I went by myself, and she showed me this tree structure, which when we went back and Mike was there, it was actually not knocked down. The tree structure was compromised,
Really?
and yeah, and like the witness was she's about 5'2", I don't know, 125 pounds. Like I said, her mom's elderly, and her sister has a handicap, so they're not building any tree structures on their property. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't look like it didn't look like there was any machinery used to put this wood up there. You know what I mean? There was no like you can tell if something grabs it, like a mechanical grabs it. You're gonna have like indentations. You can have like scarring of some sort. If
This
they're
was just
moving it,
clean two hands just put together.
just cleans. But the weird thing was when I originally saw it, there was this vine. The vine from the tree was actually ripped down from the tree and was kind of wrapped around the top, and it was twisted. It was like really twisted, like on top, and it was like almost like a knot on top. And the vine was like it was probably about 3 or 4 inches wide. So you got to be pretty darn strong to twist that stuff.
You gotta be
You know what I
strong
mean?
to break those because, are you talking about like the brown vines?
Yeah, those
Yeah.
big brown vines, those thick
We,
things that you see on the trees. You
yeah,
can't you
we,
can't pull them on the trees.
no, yeah, I've tried to take a chainsaw and cut it, and it took a lot of effort to even
Yeah,
cut it
yeah,
with a
because
chainsaw.
it's stringy, because it gets stringy and it gets jammed in the yeah. It's just they're not. It's not a
It's
fun thing
real
to work with.
tough.
Yeah, and
And
this was wrapped all around the top of this tree structure, which looked like kind of like a teepee, and then wrapped around like the the not the base of it, but like kind of the middle of it.
hmm
But then when Mike came to see it, it was compromised. Like two of the three logs were out of place. So it's just like I said, it's just kind of weird. And then she has a shed on her property that she says that they lean up against and kind of
hmm
watch her sister in the window. And you could definitely see like there was some definitely discoloration on the shed. Whether it needed to be painted because it probably wasn't painted in 15 years, but
Yeah.
or if it was discoloration from their oils. You know, she seemed pretty sincere. You know what I mean? And but
I just don't. It's me personal. I know there's a lot of people out there who disagree with me. I just don't buy into the whole tree structure thing. I really think if you really want to spend the time, like almost any tree structure probably that that gets presented to you, you could probably debunk. It's just,
we
do I think it's doable? Do I think it's doable? Yes, yes, in terms of readily debunking something like that. But just I just feel like spending the time and energy to even doing so in the first place is just a waste of time. When I'm out in, if I'm out in the field, I'd rather put my energy towards more you know,
Yeah,
productive.
Good.
I've seen a lot of crazy tree structures, and they're not. You can tell if you just examine it. You can tell it's not natural. It has to be someone with hands, and I can't disclose exactly where it is, but it was in Indiana where a researcher took me to this spot, me and my grandmother, to see this huge tree structure. Four um I don't know the tree type, but they were definitely thick, tall trees.
Hmm.
There was four of them pulled out of the ground, and it was making an X to the right of the trail, about 15
Uh,
yards off trail. I mean, this is these trees are 12 feet long, and they're forming an X, and they're wedged. I mean, I would go over there and I would try to shake it to see if it was budged, but no, it's literally wedged, and it is pulled out of the ground, and they're not rotten either. These are hard. These are fresh trees. They're not rotten, and I don't see any way it could be natural because
Yeah.
yeah,
if
because
it would have fallen, I feel like I don't think four trees would fall at the same time and wedge each other into each other at the same time. It just does
well,
not. It's not logical.
yeah, if trees fall, I mean, they usually bring up a bunch of dirt with them. There'll be like a ball of dirt with them. Obviously, if time goes by, it goes away. But a lot of the trees that are down by me, we had like a tornado come through. Even in New Jersey, we get tornadoes, but we had like a tornado come through, and you could see like these trees are knocked down, but there's a lot of dirt still attached to the bottom of the root system. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
these were all the same length. They were all probably 12 feet in the air, or like 12 feet long. I mean, huge trees, dude. And they were just wedged, and they made an X on both sides of the structure, and it was right off to the right of the trail.
I
Where,
mean, that's pretty creepy. Was it in China? Where's it? Where they have the upside down trees with the roots in the air?
yeah,
I think I think it's
somewhere
in China.
foreign.
That's yeah. I think
Yeah, but
that's
a lot of that though, there are pictures of that. There are pictures of that came out that came out of the Pine Barrens, and apparently, that's not like a prank. It's just kind of like a weird thing that like people with certain construction equipment do or something like that.
what are they using straps still? I guess I
Something
guess.
it's like some kind of weird like machine or something. I think it was Brendan that pointed that brought that up. But like to your point though, Toby, about the stick structures, about the stick structures and whatnot. You said um, one thing that like they have to be made with a creature with hands. Well, what other animal has hands that, besides possible Sasquatch that's out in the woods?
Yeah, that can move 12 feet long
Yeah,
trees that probably weigh probably about 800 to 1,000 pounds.
humans. I mean, how big? What was how big were that? How big were they exactly?
From my guess, 12 feet.
Oh yeah. Trophy you describe it. Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
even more. Probably,
yeah.
probably more. Probably up to 15 feet.
And how wide were they? I mean,
I mean,
were like a foot in diameter, or were they like 10 inches, or you know what I mean?
they weren't
Because I mean
extremely
that's
wide, but they were wide, thick enough to, like, I don't know.
like you're not. I mean, if anything, you're gonna use some type of strap or something like because 3 or 4 men aren't gonna be grabbing around and pulling them up.
And
I
don't
mean,
forget, too, whether it's a tree limb or a tree branch that falls vertically, or something that like tips over, falls at an angle, or something like that in the woods. There's a lot of other trees of varying sizes, or some that are really like clustered close together, or just the branches in the canopy, or low hanging or low protruding branches and limbs. A lot of these tree debris or trees that that fall and stuff like that. A lot of them have like a lot of those circumstances that I just laid out. That it creates it creates for like a controlled fall. So like
That's yeah.
you have like a big ass tree limb that snaps, falls 20 feet. It's getting twisted, hit and turn. It's twisted, hit and turned. Its directions probably getting changed by like
Mhm.
other tree limbs or tree trunks or branches that it's hitting on the way down, and um this is some of the stuff I do on a Friday, Saturday night. I actually watched a couple of YouTube video. I actually watched a couple of YouTube videos once of just tree limbs falling from trees and stuff like that, and like some of the paths that they take, from top to the time they hit the bottom, and just like sometimes the angles that they hit and stuff like that can be like it happens
Mhm.
because of these control controlled falls from that stuff that I just went
Oh,
over. Again,
because
like I'm really not trying to like write it off. I'm just saying like these are some of the explanations that I come up with that I feel are probably more conceivable than to readily attributed to being like a mark of like a Sasquatch or something like that. I'm not saying it's not out of the question. I'm just saying like these are the things that come to mind that I think are most likely the cause for them.
Mhm.
I think like well, I got a friend in Western Pennsylvania that where he goes does his research is desolate, and there's no cell service. Like well, like a lot of places we go, Mike. There's no. I'm sure you too,
Yeah.
there's no cell service at all. And he's actually come across a few tree structures. And now he's like he leans more towards uh Bigfoot being like paranormal or woo. You know, what I mean, like he's more on the paranormal side, which
Yeah.
is fine. I respect that because, like I said, who knows?
Mhm.
But he actually has a test that he does, and he told me to do this, and it's obviously not going to work in New Jersey or you know, like I can't do it where I am, but maybe if we go to if we go to Allegheny again or we go up the Adirondacks or wherever, we can try it. Is he said put your cell phone inside of the tree structure, the TP tree structure. He's had on multiple occasions at his his different locations that he goes where there's no cell for service at all. Zero bars, and he'll put his phone inside of the tree structure and he'll get 4 bars.
That is interesting.
So, like I said, it's something that is, hearing that, and he's invited me out to go with him a couple times, and Mike, hopefully, we can get out there, and but I think that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? You get no cell service, and all of a sudden you can call for you can call for pizza in this tree structure. That's
That's incredible.
yeah. So, but and that's the reason why I go to these different conferences because you get to obviously you go for the speakers, but you just go and talk to the people, man. They're so interesting. You meet witnesses, you meet people that have had similar experiences. You meet you
Mhm.
build friendships, and it's really look at you and Mike. You guys were talking what was it 6 months after you guys were in Florida,
Yeah, this
probably.
was in February, right, Mike?
That was back in July,
Oh,
so
July. My bad.
about 6 months we've known each other now. Keeping
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
touch.
So I mean, yeah, you build off these relationships, and then you get invited to these different places, and you can invite people to, I hope to get some people up to our little area that we the greenway that we work. So
Yeah,
we got to do.
that was something yeah, that was something I've talked to Toby and his grandmother about. Uh,
Yeah,
them them taking a trip out here. Where we take them? Probably High Point.
I would take them High Point or at least definitely Delaware Water Gap. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe we start. I think this year,
Delaware
from
Gap.
yeah, where I've been doing like the research I've been doing. I think this year they're actually moving south more towards the gap itself, like they were north. Because last year we had the two Class A sightings up by like in the Wandage or the High Point area.
Hmm.
I think this year it's going to be moving down towards Delaware because it's been 3 years since I had whatever I saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I figure it's every 2 or 3 years that they go to these areas and they work the areas, forage, and you know
They
And
move
it's
on.
weird.
they
Yeah, and it's weird too. You'll find this interesting, actually, Toby. It's kind of weird too, where like some of these exact sightings occur, like the ones that occurred in Wantage. So our area, it's the Delaware Water Gap. It's pretty much that greenway that goes from the Catskills and goes in like a, north northeast southwestish thing.
swath. Yeah, it's like a swath of
Yeah,
land.
turns into the Delaware Water Gap and follows the Delaware River, straggling along the New Jersey PA border for a bit. That's like the main greenway. However, the Appalachian Trail cuts through that, but it doesn't follow that greenway up into the Catskills. The Appalachian
Yeah.
Trail follows pretty much veers east southeast, and just follows the New York New Jersey border before eventually cutting into New York and heading into to Connecticut. So that little greenway that the Appalachian Trail goes through, it's kind of like this inadvertent bottleneck, but what it does is like that bottleneck area opens up to like this other massive. I don't even want to call it. I don't even. I would like. You know what I'm talking about, Chuck? Like Waywanda, Wildcat Ridge, Harriman, Bear Mountain, all that.
Yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't. It's like too broad to be considered a greenway, in my opinion. But just like these large swaths of greenery,
protected land.
yeah, in southern New York and North Jersey. It's separated from that, Never Sink Delaware Water Gap Greenway by the Appalachian Trail, and you know, our witness that we had, she lived along the New York New Jersey border. These wanted sightings happened there. I think if anything, it gives credence that that specific area is like a legit bottleneck area that they travel
Hmm.
in and out of.
Yeah, but yeah, because we don't have the land mass to compete with Kentucky, West Virginia, Washington State, Northern California. So our our our, our guys, our big feet, our Bigfoots, they gotta go multi-state. They gotta go. They don't know state lines. They just know where to eat. You know.
Yeah.
And where to be elusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, a lot of it's protected land because that's pretty much all New Jersey, New York is now. Is either protected land or developments. So
And the
they're
other
using
thing,
these.
yeah,
But
and
even like, well, like even like Mike, like the gas line runs right through there too.
yeah,
We got the power lines and we got the gas lines. The gas lines are protected too. I mean,
and
they
also
got.
true. A lot of these wooded forested areas, a lot of these wooded forested areas are on or near private property. One of the things I noticed in North Jersey, especially when I did my deep dive, I think it was even the majority of sightings I think happened on private property. I think like even more than like when the witness was driving.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like they were looking in the wood lines,
Yeah.
and like even
Well,
where our
because
witness, where our
yeah,
witness is, shit, that's residential area. But like,
exactly.
but half that her half of her development is they're foreclosed, so they're empty houses.
Yeah,
You know what
but
I mean?
just
So, go ahead.
yeah. I'm saying like that's the thing too, though. Just think about how residential, like Passaic County is,
Hmm.
and even part of Passaic County, Orange County, New York, Rockland County,
Hmm.
uh, that whole area. I mean, like especially if you have a house that's on it's on a couple of acres of it's on like a couple of acres of wooded parcel. Like how often are people like let's be real, if it's private land, you have your residential
Yeah,
house there. How often are people going into those woods?
Hmm.
no, not going there at all.
You know,
Mm-mm. Nope.
so
Yeah.
like like a lot of people say like, and, like I agree too. The farther you are from actual civilization, the better chances you'll get of having some kind of experience you could attribute to these creatures. But
Yeah.
like a setting like that, I think is like deceivingly convenient for these these creatures, especially if they're just passing through, trying like just trying to cut through undetected. That
Mhm.
works for them.
Yeah, it's an easy meal too because there's a couple sightings where there's in New Jersey at least where the Bigfoot were in the dumpster eating. You know what I mean? Or pulling something out. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's the one right on. It's in the BFRO. There's a I think it's on. Actually, the name of the road I think is called Wits End, but there was a sighting of one at a dumpster, and I think like the bear, I think they have some free being close to residential, being close to the farms. You get New
Mhm.
Jersey, New York have loads of apple orchards where we are.
Oh yeah.
Especially in late fall, that they'll rip through that and get a bunch of apples and eat the corn and
It's great for
you
them.
know yeah, Monday, if it's Monday or Sunday night, people put the garbage out for Monday morning. They can grab that. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely different, an interesting field, and I'm just glad that we were able to use, we were able to do more research and be connected with people,
Mhm.
from all over, like you, Toby, down in Cincinnati, with Facebook and with the different social media things, we can get,
Mhm.
you can find out about these conferences and connect with these different Bigfoot groups and dogman groups, and you know,
Mhm.
I think it's a great that we can do this. You know,
Yeah. I'm very grateful to have both of you on here for my first two podcasts, and I love, like I said, I love talking about this. I love the community. It's great.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, man. Like like me and Charlie, we could probably stay up to like 2, 3 a.m. talking about this stuff. Like no shortage.
absolutely, yep, absolutely. But that's also why we started our YouTube channel and our show. It's the CARC Universal on YouTube, and then our show From Behind Tall Trees is you get these personalities that I've seen a bunch of them at these conferences, but you put them on and you just let them talk, and it's a super chat, so you can ask questions live to them. But you're learning, you're constantly learning, and that's why I love going to the conferences. And you want to get these people on the show, just so people can learn more and expand your knowledge, whether you agree with them or not. At least you're aware of what they think, and it's another point of view to look at. I mean, I think Matt Pruitt said it best. Is like there's no experts in Bigfoot, because actually a couple of them said, I think Cliff said it too. There's no experts in Bigfoot because there's no body to study. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can be an expert in all the different research that's out there. You know what I mean? You could be really well studied on the numerous different books that people have, the numerous different reports that people have, and being out on your own, doing your own research. You can definitely because Mike and I mean, I've learned a lot more from Mike than I think I've learned from you know half the guys that I've listened to, because he's that good of a researcher. So
Mhm.
Shucks. Oh, shucks.
yeah, Mike, you can give me the $10 later. But yeah, but that's why we started our group too, because and the first thing we did was we got Mike, and we're like, we got him because he's talented. He does all the analytics, and
Mhm.
he's willing to do the get out there and climb up the steep hills. I tried hiking with him one time, and it was a disaster. Thank God there was no cameras rolling. God, it was awful.
You
Mhm.
freaking busted your ass that one time.
Yeah, I busted my ass going up a hill. I don't know how I do that, but we're trying to put
Well,
trail cams out by the on the New Jersey New York State border,
Mhm.
and on the Appalachian Trail, and of course we're off the Appalachian Trail. We're bushwhacking, and the bush whacked me back. So good stuff though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
you gotta get up to us, man. You gotta come up and check us out. I was talking to Ken Gerhardt. He wants to come up and visit us up in New Jersey.
Yeah, this summer, me and my grandmother will come out to you guys. Definitely, probably spend a few days or maybe even a week just doing
That's
some hard
awesome, man. We'll get some
research.
good pizza. We'll get some good bagels. We'll take you
Yeah,
out in the woods.
real pizza.
Yes.
And you know, like I mean, listen, you'll probably have like a much better chance of having activity out by where you guys usually go. But areas by areas are pretty squatchy. You know, they have everything one would probably need to at least
Mhm.
cut through the cut through the area. And we have had weird activities before. So
Yeah. And I think, like you say, if you bring your grandmother, I'm a big proponent of bringing, because the experiences I had in the past, like I said, was with my ex fiance, and I think having a female voice or a female presence in the woods with you, I think it draws them to you as well.
Oh yeah, for
Whether it
sure.
be that they're the protectors of the woods and they're protectors of women, or if they're just attracted, if they smell the female scent and they're
I think they're
attracted to that.
smart enough to know that females just a little bit less intimidation than males.
That's true. Yeah, that's. But I think but if you know, that's what we got to figure out who we want to get. Who we want to get out in the woods with us, Mike, or two, who, you know, who's gonna come out with like three guys in the woods? Hey, you want to go
Mhm.
bigfooting? Yeah, right.
yeah,
You get
exactly. It's
you
not
get
really
maced,
when it comes to
but
females, unless they're already into it, it's kind of hard
yeah,
to twist that at first.
yeah, you
Yeah.
got to sign a bunch of release forms. But no, but like I said, I'm a big I'm a big supporter of that. I think they draw them in, you know, whether it
Mhm.
be at a campsite when they're talking around the campfire and they get curious, you know.
Mhm.
So, but I will tell you, like the one more experience that I had, which is kind of weird, and I'm thinking it might have been a female that was with was I was at my parents' house. Like I said, I used to come up on the weekends and hang out at them at their house. They had this house on the lake, which is right. The lake basically feeds the Wallkill River, which is part of that greenway that we are talking about
Mhm.
that goes from New Jersey up into the Catskills. And I'm sitting and I'm watching TV, and I feel like something's watching me again. I'm sitting in my parents' family room, or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like something's watching me, so I'm looking out the window, and of course I can't see anything because it's dark. But what was weird is that it was an awful smell. It was summertime. All the windows were open. My parents didn't have AC. So all the windows were open, and it's just an awful putrid smell. Smelled
Ooh.
like feces, urine, dead fish. BO. Everything was just nasty.
We get those
And
uriny bo smells almost every time we go out. When
you
we're
do.
when we s- when we s- when we hear something paralleling us out, which every time we walk out, we don't get paralleled in, we get paralleled out.
You're getting escorted
We
out. Yeah.
we always get that smell. It's either urine or just straight just haven't showered in 2 weeks. Just
Must.
Must be. Yeah. Just
yes,
nasty.
yeah, and you can smell it right away.
That's. But see, and so I'm looking, and I look outside, and I can't see anything because where this thing is supposedly, where I want to look, there's no light there. So I go back and I sit down, and this probably happens probably for like 2 or 3 hours. Finally, I'm like, screw it. I turn up the light, and I'm just watching TV, and I'm not paying attention to anything. And then my parents' cat comes over, and he's he's by the window, like right where I think this
Mhm.
thing's looking in the windows, and the cat starts like hissing, like it's like just like, you know.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's freaky. I pick up the cat and I kind of throw it in the other room, like get out of here, and I sit back down. And sure enough, like maybe 10 minutes later, after I wasn't paying attention to the whatever's outside, something hit the wall, like punched the wall,
Ooh.
like where I was sitting. Like the couch where I was sitting on was against the wall, like on the far, against the outside of the house.
Yeah.
Right where I was sitting, it was like on the outside of the house. It was like a big wham, and then I heard like thunk, thunk, like heavy like footsteps, running away.
Yeah.
So I don't. It was just a really weird. But then I look at, if you look at the BFRO website, there's actually someone has an experience like that where something hit the back of the wall that they're sitting in, you know,
Mhm.
of the room they're sitting in. So that's another experience that I can't really explain, and that happened in New Jersey. So
Yeah.
I think we do have them up here. Like I said, it's just we don't
Oh,
probably
for
have
sure.
as big a population, but the ones we do have, they're nosy,
Yeah.
like the rest of the people in New Jersey.
Western Ohio, it's not that dense as Eastern Ohio, but we definitely still have, enough.
Oh yeah, for
We
sure.
absolutely, and even like well, you guys, because you got Western Ohio, and that's Indiana next to you guys.
Yeah.
To Indiana, and then you go up to Michigan, right? Like right. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a bunch of sightings up in Michigan too.
Yeah, it goes Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan.
Yeah. So I mean that's you got. There's a lot of. That's a hot spot, man.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
So
For sure.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I know you're only gonna be on an hour, and here we are coming up on 2 hours.
that's what talking about Bigfoot, man. You just keep on talking, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you just get sucked into it.
Mhm. Can't stop sometimes.
Yeah.
No, Kobe, I appreciate the opportunity for us to be on, on your show, and if you get a chance to check out, our YouTube channel, just give us a shot, and check out some of the people we got on there,
Yeah, you guys
and
ought to do a podcast with my grandmother. You and Mike.
oh, definitely,
Yeah, definitely. We're actually.
definitely,
She's got
I was actually.
tons of stories that are really interesting.
Yeah, I was actually talking to her about getting her and potentially getting her and Charlie to come on one of these days.
Really. Yeah, she's on podcasts all the time. I think she's been on two or three.
Yeah, because she was on the Finding Bigfoot episode, right?
Yeah, back in I think it was 2014. No, 2012.
Yeah,
yeah,
the so yeah
Mike,
the second
Mike,
Kentucky one. I was
set it up, Mike, get it going,
yeah, working on it. We're
definitely,
booking yeah, we're booking our guests.
She was just
definitely.
on I think Bigfoot Radio.
Oh, well, hey, listen, we're more than happy to have
Yeah.
her on. Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be
We
great.
definitely. So, no, and I definitely do appreciate the time you've given us, Toby.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate you guys coming and help me out and sharing all your experiences. I could do this for hours, and it's just really cool to even, you know, record our conversations so everybody else can learn and hear our encounters.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
exactly. And that's what I liked about tonight too. It was just very, just very casual. Just three dudes having a conversation, talking Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. And it's our opinions. You know what I mean? It's our experiences and our opinions.
Mhm.
Take it for what it's worth. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah,
expect anyone to
exactly.
learn from me, but like I said, just hearing what I've been witnessed, what I experienced is, you know,
It's out there.
it is what it is. Now it's out there.
Yep. We'll wrap it
All
up at
right.
that. Thanks to both of you guys again. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Absolutely, man.
Have us
Yeah,
have
Mike.
us on again soon. We're always down.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, absolutely. This was a pleasure, man. Pleasure's all mine. Thanks,
Ple-
Toby.
Yep.